Hello, DC Everest families. My name is Dr. Kelly Thompson, and I currently serve as the District's Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Literacy. And I simply wanted to take a few moments today to outline our reentry plans as specifically related to curriculum and instruction in each of our buildings. As you may have already heard, at the K-5 level, our plan is to have our learners in school in the physical buildings on a daily basis. Our instructional focus will be on literacy acquisition as well as mathematical skills and concepts. Science and social studies will be embedded into this instruction, and students will continue to experience health, PE, music, and art instruction as well. Our class sizes at the elementary will look smaller than they've ever looked before, with these small cohorts of students having limited interaction with additional cohorts of students amongst the building. This is to ensure the safety of both of our students, our teachers, and our staff. At the secondary level, we are working on implementing a blended learning environment. Blended learning, by definition, consists of learning that happens face-to-face within the school walls and additional learning that continues outside of the school walls when the student is not in attendance. So for an example, you may have heard that your child is part of an A cohort. For example, he or she might attend school on Monday or Tuesday, and this is where the new critical learning occurs that typically cannot happen outside the school walls. So an example might be in science. This is where a student is doing a hands-on lab. In an English classroom, it might be where a teacher provides models of the critical components of an effective argumentative essay. In a welding class, it might be where the student is doing the hands-on welding. Again, this is where the new content and skills are being instructed, and the teacher is there to directly instruct or to scaffold to support this new learning. On the days that the student is not in the building, this is where he or she engages in opportunities to apply the new learning in order to refine it. So going back to that science lab example, the student might then be writing up a report of his or her findings, or perhaps collaborating online with a small group of students to answer questions about the lab. In the English example, this is where the student is working on his or her own rough draft of his or her own argumentative essay. He or she might then get online and interact with a student partner who provides editing feedback on that draft. In the welding example, the days that the student is not in the school might consist of him or her watching a video on a new welding concept that will be announced or instructed upon the next time he or she is in the school building. So as you can see, the days that the student is not in the physical school learning, he or she is still engaging and applying those new skills. Again, this is critical for your students' learning. This looks a little different than last year when we were all remote, as a lot of times students were maybe logging on face-to-face. And in fact, during times when the student is not in the physical classroom, not all the activities will require logging onto a computer. An example might be learning how to understand how politics work in the House of Representatives. A student might be reading a chapter and collaborating with another student on coming up with some answers to questions. So again, teachers will provide steps on what the learning will look like the days that the students are not in the physical classroom, with clear expectations, and again, this will count towards the students' grades. Grades do count this time around, and the engagement activities on the days the student is not in school also count as the student's attendance. The other option we have this fall is an entirely virtual approach. This is a program within our school where we have purchased outside curricular online components which are parallel with the types of classes that we currently have at DC Everest. You can find this information on EVA, Everest Virtual Academy, on our website. This looks very different than learning last fall, where it is entirely remote, but the student does not have daily classroom access to a teacher. In fact, EVA really revolves around a personalized learning plan where the student has targeted lessons that he or she works on each week. He or she may have access to a teacher that is not an Everest employee for these classes, but again, the face-to-face interaction is somewhat limited. And there will be a DC Everest teacher who will check in with families to ensure that students are progressing along with their personalized learning plans. Again, you can find this information on our website. This virtual school looks very different from if we were to go to fully remote learning as we did last spring. If we are to go to fully remote learning for our K-5 learners, as well as our secondary who would have been involved in blended, our remote/e-learning will be much more structured and consistent than it was last spring, as we've learned much from our experiences. Again, grades will count. Teachers will continue to be flexible to work with students who may have limited or unreliable internet access. But again, we will have those plans in place. And in fact, during the first 2 weeks of our school this year, teachers will be working with students to ensure that they understand how to use the tools embedded in our Canvas learning management system, as well as the additional expectations that will be required should we have to go to this learning environment. I hope this information is helpful. As always, if you have questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. Certainly you can reach out to your child's teacher, your child's principal, or you can contact us here at the curriculum office. Let's look forward to a great year of curriculum instruction and student learning. Thank you.